Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Soul to Soul Wellness. Today, I'm really thrilled to have Australian netballer and professional cookie baker, Annika Lee Jones, with me today. Thanks for joining me today, Annika.
No, thank you so much for having me.
We met a few weeks ago when my daughter was doing work experience with you, and she had the opportunity to roll some cookie dough with you. And when we met, I was really struck by the fact that you are a young entrepreneur as well as balancing a netball career. And I was really keen to have a chat with you. So I'm really grateful that you said yes to coming on and speaking with me today.
No worries. I'm excited to talk to you.
I am too. I feel like we have some common ground with me having been a former elite athlete and you being in your prime right now. And I really wanted to chat to you a little bit about mindset, the importance of creativity in life.
Yeah.
And so I think we might start with finding out how you ended up living here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland.
Yeah. So I moved up to the Sunshine Coast for netball, to play netball. I actually played 2 years over in Perth at the elite level in the Suncorp Super Netball. So I played for the West Coast Fever. And then unfortunately at the end of that 2-year contract, they didn't re-offer me another contract, but I was lucky enough to get offered one up here with the Sunshine Coast Lightning, which has been absolutely amazing. So I moved up here the day after I turned 22 actually. Have been living up here since then. So that was the end of 2018 that I moved up here and I'm loving it.
What are you loving about living on the Sunshine Coast?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's just something about the Sunshine Coast, like the vibe and the people. It's just such a nice place to live. And I think coming from Perth, the Sunshine Coast is kind of similar in a way, but just probably a little bit smaller. So I think that's kind of nice and that it's not too different to home. So it wasn't like a massive adjustment, even though it's quite far away. But yeah, I don't know, all the people that I've got to be involved with and just coming up here to be a part of Lightning really made it feel like such a welcoming place, and everybody that I've come across has just been so nice. I think I'll be sad if I ever have to leave.
I am really curious to ask you, because mindset's such an important part of being an athlete, and I work with a lot of athletes, so I'm excited for them to hear, how did you navigate that time when Fever didn't sign your contract? Like how, because you were young.
Yes.
So how did that land with you, and how did you work your way through it?
Obviously I was absolutely devastated. I mean, I guess it was kind of an interesting situation because I found out that Lightning wanted to sign me before I found out that Fever didn't want to. So I guess when I went into my meeting with Fever, I kind of knew that I had something if they didn't offer me anything. But I don't know, I feel like I was still so upset that Fever didn't offer me anything, because at that point in time, I thought Fever was the best thing ever. And I just wanted to stay at home with my family. Like, I was comfortable there. I was well established. I had all of my friends. But it was really sad. But looking back on it now, I am so grateful for the opportunity to come up here, because this has probably been one of the best decisions that I've made in my life, to come up here. It's been amazing.
Isn't that beautiful? And I like that you can see that in reflection. Like upon reflection, you can see why it was a blessing. And sometimes in life, we don't know what the next chapter is going to hold.
Yeah.
And so with a new chapter for you coming now as well, how are you taking that experience and helping you with this experience that you're going through right now?
Yeah, I think kind of in the last year or so, I've kind of really come to think about everything happening for a reason. And I think obviously that was the case, like leaving Fever, maybe I was meant to come up here. I mean, I've made some of my best friends up here. Like, that was an experience that was meant to happen. And now I think moving forward, since I'm not going to be playing at Lightning anymore, I'm just kind of looking at everything with a bit more of an open mind and just kind of thinking, well, there must be a reason that I'm not meant to be at Lightning right now. I don't know what it is currently, but obviously my next chapter is going to help me work that out. And yeah, I'll just see how life unfolds. Yeah, I think previously I was the kind of person that needed to be like really organized, needed to know what was coming next, but I've kind of relaxed on that a little bit. And now I'm just go with the flow a little bit more.
So where have you gained that approach to go with the flow?
I think since I left Fever and then coming up here, everything's been a little bit uncertain. I've been living I've been living with one of the girls, but like I don't have family or anyone around me. And especially this year with coronavirus, I think that probably contributed to it as well, because that was a really uncertain time. We didn't know if we were going to have a season. We didn't know when we were going to be allowed to train together again. So you just kind of had to keep going, like living in the moment. And then when things came, when we were allowed to train together again, or when we found out that the season was going to take place, like it's a bonus. So like, yeah, I think living in the moment is probably like a key thing for me, not thinking too far in the future. Yeah.
I love that approach. I wish at your age that I had that approach of living with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked my diary. I still like my diary, and I like to mark out what was happening and to know what was coming up.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like a wonderful little gold nugget to share with everyone, that sometimes going with the flow is the way to go.
Yeah.
And to just trust
Yeah.
that things are going to work out for the best for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you have a little venture as well that you do with your mum.
Yeah.
Did you want to share with us about Annimentary?
Yeah, so Annimentary is a little cookie business that I guess I made, and then my mum got on board with me. It actually kind of evolved from a business that I had with one of my West Coast Fever teammates when I was living back in Perth. So we had a business called Bakes and Braids, a bit of a weird combination, but we were playing to each other's strengths. So obviously I did lots of baking, and my friend is really good at braiding hair. So we used to go down to like netball events and pop-up markets and things and do that. And I guess I baked a variety of different things, but the thing that was always the most popular and I always had to bake way more of was my cookies. So I guess that's where I realized that, okay, my cookies are pretty good. But then I think how the business Annimentary actually established itself as a thing was we at West Coast Fever, we were sponsored by Netballer coffee, and we did a few appearances at one of the local cafes near my house back home, and the girls kept saying to them about how good my cookies were. And then one day they just contacted me and asked me to bring in some samples for them, and then from there they started stocking them, and then I guess it's just kind of grown from that. So yeah, we started with just like wholesale, so stocking cafes and things, but now we have a website and we ship cookies all around Australia, which is pretty cool.
Wow. And how old are you?
I'm 24.
So where did your passion for baking come from?
I think my nana, she used to make wedding cakes and things for people, and she's always been really into baking. And I think when I was younger, she lives in Adelaide, and I think whenever we used to go over there to visit her or she'd come home, we'd always bake together. So I guess that's kind of where it came from. Yeah, I don't know. I've just always really liked it. And I think the thing that I like the most about it is like making other people happy with what I give them, what I bake for them. So no matter what it is, but yeah, cookies is my chosen path.
I can testify to that because I've been eating your cookies when I've been dropping in to pick up some takeaway meals, and I love them. I love the Jaffa and chocolate, the freckle one.
Yeah.
They're my two favorite chocolate lollies if I have them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had a couple of them and they're really nice.
Yeah. Well, they're the most recent flavor that I've come up with.
There you go.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit of an odd one, but I personally really like the combination, and clearly you do too. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
So where did you get the bravery to launch a business?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I personally myself, I didn't really think of it as like a brave thing, I suppose. But people have like said to me, people who have spoken to me have said about how big a thing it is, and I was just kind of like, well, just going into it, see how it would play out, kind of thing. If we sold heaps of cookies and were real successful, well, that's a bonus. But I kind of just went into it as kind of like a thing that I do for fun because I love baking, and it's kind of like a stress relief for me. So I was like, oh, well, if people really like the cookies and people want to stock them in their cafe, then why not sell them to them? Because I enjoy doing it anyways. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I just was like, why not?
I love that. So you were looking at what was good about it. Like you probably weren't aware that it was a risk.
No.
And so I love that. And you were like, well, I'm going to give this a go. And I often think that that's when things do work out for us in life, is when we don't have an expectation.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, you're tuning into the fact that it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think only good things come from when we're focused on having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I guess I basically went in just for the fun of it, not necessarily to make money from it or anything. So, yeah.
So I want to ask the obvious question. With being an elite athlete and baking, where is the balance for you between baking cookies and eating for performance? How does that factor for you?
Yeah, well, I suppose that personally, I feel like I don't really eat that many of the cookies. I only really eat them when I make new ones because I need to obviously check to make sure they taste good. But yeah, obviously it's not like exclusive. I only eat them when I make new ones. Like occasionally, like I'll feel like a cookie and my housemates love them. So they'll be like, can we have cookies tonight and whatever. But yeah, obviously you do need to find that balance. And I think because I've been playing netball at an elite level for quite a few years now, you kind of learn when it's okay to eat those things and when it's not, because obviously right before you're about to train isn't great because you'll be running around feeling sick. But yeah, I think over the years I've kind of learned that balance is really key. And just because you're an elite athlete doesn't mean that you can't eat cookies.
100%. It's about enjoying life, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that and I love that this is something that we're talking about, because I think some people think that it has to be all or nothing. And sometimes that all or nothing approach doesn't work either. So we all have our own unique way of getting through life. And I love that you just embrace it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I think that with like everything just has to be sustainable. So if you just completely don't eat cookies, and one day you're going to eat all the cookies and it's just not going to end well.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So your netball journey and your cooking journey are kind of intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how has that been for you to balance that, using the word balance?
Yes, okay. To be honest, this year I'm not sure whether I've balanced it all that well, because obviously due to coronavirus, our netball season was very different to what it would normally be. We played 2 games a week and everything was really squished in. And then also all my cookie orders and stuff ramped up in that time because I was also doing corporate catering for all of our games. So that was around 100 cookies a game. So that was an additional 200 cookies a week on top of all of my wholesale cookies and then orders to deliver to people. And I feel like during the season, it wasn't great. I was going to training, coming home, making cookies, going to bed, waking up, going to training, making cookies, going to bed. Like it was pretty nonstop. But I think that was a really good learning curve for me. So if I'm ever in that position again, I'll kind of work out how to balance it better. Personally, I'm not very good at saying no, but I think if I'm in this situation again, that'll be something that I will have to try and work on.
And that's part of your learning journey, isn't it? Like,
exactly,
I think you're not the only person to go through that. A lot of people with businesses have to do a lot of it themselves. And the reality is you're balancing cash flow with your time and working out, well, is this worth my time, or shall I outsource in this particular moment, or ask for some help in this particular moment? So you're learning a lot. You're learning a lot with your cookie business, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a pretty cool experience to learn all about the side of a business and stuff. I guess I didn't really know much about it heading into it. I just threw myself in the deep end and was like, I'll work it out as I go.
And I can see with the different flavor combinations that you have in your cookies that you're very creative. Yeah. So how do you get creative inspiration?
This is a good question. I think often my friends always like to suggest things. But then also, like, I guess ideas come to me at really random times. Like, I'll just be like driving to training or something and I'll be like, oh, that would be pretty good. Like, or I have a burnt butter caramel cookie, which I came up with that because my mum accidentally bought caramello chocolate one day instead of milk chocolate. So that's how that one was born. But yeah, I don't know.
What's your most popular flavor?
My most popular flavor is our rainbow M&M cookies. People love them. They're just M&Ms and milk chocolate.
And so for anyone listening today that's interested in looking up your cookies, where's the best place to go for them to be able? Do you stock them? Do you ship them? Can they order them online?
Yeah, so we have a website, which is www.annimentary.com, and you can order them online there. We also have a few stockists over in Perth that you can go, like cafes that you can go to and buy them. Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is it that you love about being in business?
I really like, I think with netball, it's like as playing netball in Australia, well, anywhere in the world really, you can't really afford to just rely on that income. So I guess one thing that's really good about having my own business is that I can fit that in around training and then make a little bit of extra money at the same time. But then also, I've always been the kind of person that loves a challenge. And I think owning my own business is a challenge because there's lots of things that pop up that you need to deal with and everything, but also learning about different facets of running a business, like from the accounting side to the production of the cookies, like, and everything in between. It's pretty cool. And I guess it's like learning stuff is also something that I've always really liked. So I guess that falls into it as well.
So I want to ask you, what do you think your strongest attributes are in business, and then the same for netball? What are your strongest attributes as a netballer?
As a netballer, I think that my ability to work as a team is quite a strong facet, but then my ability to take on board feedback and implement it as well. And then I guess in my business, the creativity side of it is probably one of my strengths. And that's probably one of the things that I enjoy the most as well, whether that's making the cookies and coming up with the flavors, or like getting photos and creating my Instagram and Facebook feed.
Yeah, your feed's it's pretty nice to look at.
Yeah, I take great pride in my Instagram feed in particular.
We eat with our eyes, right? We eat with our eyes. And do you think those attributes for netball that you mentioned and the ones in your business, do you think that they cross over or can cross over into the other arenas? So could creativity play a factor in netball?
100%. I think as netballers, creativity is very important, whether that's in attack or defense. As a defender myself, I think that you always have to be thinking and changing up what you're doing in order to combat a shooter. And I guess that's a form of creativity. But then on the flip side of that, in attack, you need to be creative in your movement in order to lose your defender, which is something that's also important for me as a defender when obviously we get a turnover or whatever.
So it's about you thinking like forward thinking and thinking, where do I think they're going to be moving and anticipating?
Exactly. Yeah, and also like doing something that they wouldn't expect.
And so what would that be in netball? Because I think goal defense is the hardest position in the netball team.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. I don't play very much goal defense myself, but 100% it's the hardest position on the court, and I think they definitely have to be the fittest. I guess creativity and doing something that they wouldn't expect is in regards to, I feel like in netball there's kind of, in the world of netball there's probably two main overarching forms of defense. One is off the body defense and one is like one-on-one defense. So I guess within that there's several different things that you can do, but then mixing it up between the two and doing things that your opposition wouldn't necessarily expect. Like in Australia, we play a very one-on-one style of defense. So as an Australian defender, I think that shooters would kind of expect that from you. Whereas if you mix that up with off the body or something completely different, it gets them confused and they don't really know what to do. Yeah.
I love that. And what are your aspirations in business and what are your aspirations in your netball?
I'll start with netball. My aspiration in netball is to play for Australia. I'm trying to, I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but that's the beauty of it, I suppose. You never know where the path's going to take you. Just got to kind of trust it. My aspirations in my business would be, I would kind of like to get to a point where we need to get people in, like employ people, which I think we were almost at, but now since I'm leaving the Sunshine Coast, we're kind of going backwards a little bit, but that's okay. We'll build it back up again. But yeah, I'd love to, I don't know, have people all across Australia know what Annimentary is as well. That would be pretty cool.
Well, I think you're on your way.
Yeah, hopefully.
And so my last question to you is, well, hopefully it's my last question. With regards to mindset, I have a lot of young listeners that listen to my podcast show.
Yeah.
What would be your advice for any young person, whether they're an athlete or not, with taking care of themselves and taking care of their mindset in their life?
Yeah, I think what is key in whatever you do is balance. Personally, I found that when I'm too single-minded, focusing on one thing, I'm not overly successful in that. So don't ignore, like, say you're an athlete and you want to reach the pinnacle of your sport, whether that's going to the Olympics, playing for your country or whatever. I think it's important not to solely focus on that, because I think having other areas in your life, whether that's a job, study, even just catching up with friends and family, that's really important for your mental well-being, but then also, which will then transfer into what your goals are and you achieving your goals.
I think that's a great answer. And for me, that's something that I've experienced. I always had family friends outside of sport as well as my sporting friends. And that was a really beautiful mix for me, and it worked really well. And when we moved to Canberra, the Australian squad for soccer, we all relocated prior to the Sydney 2000 Olympics. A lot of us, I'm learning now, 20 years later, really struggled with relocating because we left our families behind and we left our support networks behind, and we didn't have the beauty of technology like we do today, where we could FaceTime a family friend. I believe Hotmail was just up and going back then, because I remember sitting in the AIS library emailing a friend and we didn't even have a personal email account.
Yeah, oh my God.
Back then, I'm showing my age, aren't I? So I love that you mentioned balance. I think that's really, really important. And it really comes down to doing what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
In all areas of your life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Annika.
Thank
You're a
you.
wise young 24-year-old. I'm in
Thank
awe
you.
of the fact that you are an entrepreneur at your age, as well as a professional sportswoman. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you so much.
What I will be doing is sharing these links. So anyone that wants to find you, I will share all your links below the podcast show and on the YouTube version of this interview and across all my social media. So nobody's not going to be able to find you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I wish you all the best in your
Thank
netball,
you so much.
and I wish you all the best in your business as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here today.
No worries.